Hi everyone, welcome to this week's episode of Chicago Soccer Talk with Collin. I am in a awesome mood right now. I am really pumped up, very excited because along with watching the MLS, NWSL, I am a international fan of football as well, and I watched this morning's Manchester City versus Wolverhampton match, and as expected, Manchester City destroyed Wolverhampton in the second half. And I was very excited after the result. And before I get to talking about some NWSL, Chicago Red Stars news, and Chicago Fire news, I need to start off more happy, exciting news because I need to get in a great mood before we begin the 5th episode of the show. So first, I want to talk about one of my favorite players in all of football, Erling Haaland, the Norwegian superstar, the magician, the maestro, the Norse god. He was unbelievable today. Another hat trick. It's becoming an everyday occurrence these days. He had a hat trick versus Wolverhampton. The first one, awesome goal, end of the first half against the Wolves. Erling Haaland, he got on the rebound. Money. 1-0 City. The second half, a couple penalties. He made it look like they were playing in a little kid league. Easily made them 3-0 W for City. Erling Haaland has the most goals in the Premier League right now. And one fact that shows how unbelievable he's been this season, I kid you not, last season's goal leaders, Mohamed Salah and Son, both had 23 goals at the end of the season. Erling Haaland's already passed that, and there's still multiple games left. It shows how his skill level is transferred to the Premier League and how he's become badass this season. Now I want to transfer to the NWSL and then the Chicago Fire. Taking off my sunglasses. So for the Red Stars, I don't have any new news for the Red Stars at the moment. They haven't made any new free agent signings or news revolving around ownership or location for upcoming season. So I'm just going to talk about the U.S. women's national team instead. They played 2 friendlies against New Zealand the past few days, and 2 of the best players on the Red Stars, Mallory Swanson and Alyssa Naeher, both are on the women's national team, and some friendlies preparing for the Women's World Cup, which will be not that far away. So in the first match, Alyssa Naeher started in goal, and the U.S. women's national team shut out versus New Zealand, and Mallory Swanson had 2 goals as well. One was an awesome header. She got it on the rebound, header in past the New Zealand's goalkeeper, and that made it 1-0 U.S., and then she scored again later to give them a 4-0 win. Less than the shutout. And one thing I want to mention is going to take a little bit getting used to saying Mallory Swanson, not Mallory Pugh. I was used to her maiden name, Mallory Pugh, not Swanson. But now that she got married to Chicago Cubs superstar Dansby Swanson, now she's going with her married name Swanson, not Pugh. So if I mess up and say Mallory Pugh, not Swanson, forgive me, that's the reasoning. It's going to take some getting used to. That's one thing that's different in women's sports. if they get married and switch their name, it'll take some getting used to. For example, Red Stars player, she's gone now, but she wasn't on Red Stars. I was used to her known as Morgan Bryan, but then she got married, switched to Morgan Petraw. She's gone now, but that was the same thing, getting used to new name. And New Zealand's not that great, so the U.S. team, being one of the best, they took care of business in a friendly. They played again a couple days later, and Mallory Swanson scored again. This time, she got it off a rebound, beautiful strike past the goalie, and they won 5-0 in that match. Alyssa Naeher didn't start in that one. And that gave the U.S. 2 friendly W's, 9-0 total over New Zealand. So it looked good in warm-up. They got some of their players to get some goals, starts, get some practice in before the World Cup starts. And of course, the U.S. team is the heavy favorites going into the World Cup, but you don't want to be overinflated ego. You don't want to go, well, it's obvious we'll win, so let's not play to our fullest ability or not give it our all. You never know. There could be an upset. Team could come in, trying to take the U.S. team out and somehow upset them. We'll see what happens in the World Cup when it begins. But unlike in the Men's World Cup, where the men's U.S. team is never a heavy favorite, they usually are expected to lose pretty early. The U.S. women's team is always one of the favorites and expected to win. Just interesting difference between the two national team clubs. But that's all I have for the Red Stars. There's no more news, nothing to discuss. But I'll definitely keep you updated if there's any news in the free agent side, management side. We'll get to that when it comes. Any breaking news articles or results. But I'm just really excited for the World Cup and then for the regular season when that begins for the Red Stars as well. And other clubs as well. I'm excited to see how the new team looks, how some other new clubs look as well. They've made some new moves. Lynn Williams moving sides, other players moving sides as well. And definitely can't wait to go to some games in the future and see the new Red Stars club as a whole. Next, let's transition to the Chicago Fire. I have some news for the Fire that is explosive. And I say that all the time, like explosive news, dramatic news. This news is going to make you start screaming, fall on the floor, can't stop screaming after this news. But this news actually is really big in terms of the MLS, the Fire, and in terms of the Premier League. So 3 reasons why this news is very big and very league changing for the MLS. So in terms of why is this so important, months ago the Fire made a huge transition and huge transfer when Gaga Salina, our starting goalkeeper, who had 12 clean sheets, so 12 shutouts in the regular season, he was looking like someone who was definitely going to be a new building block pillar for the future of the club. He ended up being transferred and leaving. Permanent transfer, so he's not coming back. He's gone to the Premier League to join Chelsea, and he's going to become their starting goalkeeper there. That's one thing that is kind of a bummer in the MLS. When some of these players who are very young, so not like a 40-year-old, a guy who's young, like in 20s, late teens, has a fantastic season, very fantastic. Like, he definitely has some great talent, skill, catches the eye of a club internationally, and they go, we want this guy. Let's get him from MLS in a transfer deal, a signing. They get him, he's gone, he's not coming back to the MLS. That's one bummer, that Gaga Salina was so good for the Fire that Chelsea scooped him up and he is out of here. So that was kind of depressing that he's gone. We do have Chris Brady, who is only 18. He's homegrown from Chicago area. We helped him get his skill and build up his stature. Now he's going to be most likely the starting goalkeeper, like I talked about for episode 4. But there are rumors that a club internationally is interested in Chris Brady. Hopefully that doesn't occur. I don't need to see that happening. I don't want us to be stuck with losing Chris Brady and then having a backup take over. We don't need that. I'll get to one reason why I don't want that later, but that's one of the reasons we don't need that happening. So Gosling is gone. Now the news. One of the best young guys on the team. He had an up and down season for the Fire, but definitely you could see his spark, his talent was there, and with just some more patience on the fan side and the club side, he was going to start putting it all out there on the field. But instead of that happening, instead of as a Fire fan saying, well, I can't wait to see him in action for the upcoming year, he is heading to England. He is not coming back to the States. And the player is Jhon Duran, the Colombian sensation. He is out of here. The Fire did a transfer and it's been completed, permit transfer with Aston Villa. So Aston Villa has gotten Jhon Duran on a transfer deal. It's reported $22 million, $18 million guaranteed. The 19-year-old Colombian star is headed to Aston Villa. We sold him there. So now Jhon Duran's gone. He's headed to England. And a little bit about from my article called Can Chicago Fire Find Balance After Duran Selena Transfers to Premier League? So now that he has been gone, the Fire do have pluses in that we've gotten a little bit more war chest, financial bonuses from these sales of Selena and Duran. That's been a balance. But from a quote from our head coach, Ezra Hendrickson, he says, ideally for us, we'd like to be both a team that is able to develop players and move them on as well as remain competitive. Head coach Edward Henderson told reporters during his Wednesday media call. We have to find a balance within those, but I think it speaks well for us as an organization that within the past few months we were able to move on to two teenage promising players to England. And we have to balance that within making sure we remain competitive and making sure that we're replacing those players that if they do move on, either players from in-house or players that we've scouted and recruited to the club, just as we did with Duran. It's just a tricky situation, but it's not a horrible situation to be in. It means that people look at your players. It means your recruitment department is doing a good job of finding players abroad or homegrown. The key is to be able to replace those players. I agree with Coach Henderson's view on the development of our players and then being able to replace them. So now that Gaga is gone and Jhon Duran, we need to be able to replace both of them. It's easier said than done. With a star goalkeeper heading to England and a very promising young forward as well leaving. So we'll see what the club can do in terms of finding some young players or veterans, a little bit of both, try to balance both out and see how it can affect the next season's results. Because, fun fact, and I talked about this last time, I'm not shocked, but the club has mentioned the goal for next season is the playoffs, which it should be, but they mentioned playoffs is their number one goal for the upcoming season. And now that Jhon Duran is gone and Gaga is gone, that hurts the club's chances as well. But with some of our new players as well, that's going to help us. And we don't yet know what Chris Brady can do if he's staying here as a goalie. Maybe he can have a fantastic season, and maybe with some improvements in the defense, scoring, and midfield as well, and passing, we can have a better season than 24th. Maybe we'll sneak into the Eastern Conference playoffs and we'll stun all of the media and all of the fans and people who wrote off the team. I'm hoping for that. But I also want to wish Jhon Duran some luck and congratulate him on making the Premier League. That is a huge moment and decision for his career. As a young player, he's now in the Premier League. So I want to give him a round of applause. Congratulations, Jhon Duran, now heading to England. As a fan of the Fire, I'm disappointed he's leaving. That's disappointing. But as a fan of football overall, big moment for Jhon Duran, and he deserves all the best that he gets in England. So in terms of that, that's the news for the Fire. We lost Jhon Duran. He's now gone. Now we need to figure out, as a club, who can we get in the waiver wire or transfer market to at least replace Jhon to an extent. Because the club is an interesting situation. It's a tricky one. We have a number of players who are very young. Brian Gutierrez, he's not even 20 yet. Some other young players as well. Chris Mueller, who's a veteran, but some are veterans, some are young. We have a lot of guys who are brand new, and then ones who are older, like Jaron Shaqiri, Kasper Sabilko, players along that realm. So we'll see what can the owner and George Hyde sporting director and coach Ezra Henderson come up with to get us on the right path and start making some waves. I'm ready for that. I'm very excited. I'm also really excited too because a friend I made at the beginning of the year on New Year's Eve, he turns out he's a diehard Chicago Fire fan. His name's Frankie, and he wants to start a Chicago Fire club to go to matches, talk about the Fire, and he's really excited to start going to games. I'm excited to go to games with him as well. And it's going to be fun to have a fan club for a team. I haven't really had that with any other Chicago clubs yet. The Red Stars I've had a little bit with Ben, one of my best friends, but very excited to start one with the Fire as well. That's going to be great. And hopefully some more people can comment, talk about the club. I'm very excited. Let me know if you have any ideas for new segments for Chicago Soccer Talk with Collin. If you have any Red Stars or Fire rumors, news that you've heard that you want me to discuss, I'll do some research into it and definitely consider it if it is big news that needs to be discussed, because we cannot let that under the radar or sweep it under the rug if it is big news. So that's all I have today on the 5th episode of Chicago Soccer Talk with Collin. So to recap the episode, began with raving about Erling Haaland's success in the Premier League and Manchester City's great win. We moved on to the U.S. women's national teams, 2 W's versus New Zealand and 2 friendlies, and talked about Alyssa Naeher's shutout and Mallory Swansons' great performances in both matches with 3 goals total. Then we ended with Jhon Duran's move to Aston Villa from the Chicago Fire, and ended with that, with just talking a little bit about where the club stands as a whole and what we can do to improve for next season. So thank you so much for your support. I greatly appreciate the comments and talking about the show. It's been really fun doing it on YouTube in video form. I'm used to podcasting, not doing it on YouTube, but it's been very helpful to do it on YouTube as well. And one thing that's helped me a lot is I really want to go on a cruise in the future, and I've been watching a lot of cruise video YouTube shows, and that's been about cruises, not soccer, of course, but a lot of those have helped me in terms of lighting, voice, how pitching it, and just overall like enthusiasm and best ways to come across on the show, and that's helped me a lot. So as you may notice, I've gotten better each episode. I am very excited to see where this show continues to go, and see you next time on the show. Feel free to reach out to me with comments either on the YouTube show itself or on social media as well. Peace out. Stay safe. Have fun. Have a good time watching sports as well. There's a lot of sports going on at the moment. And see you next time.